Sunlight dappled the green lawns of a vibrant university campus on an early day in 2023. Ava Miller, 21, with bright eyes and full of energy, was enthusiastically discussing a presentation on her tablet with a group of students. The tablet screen displayed a sleek proposal titled Tech Connect Community Hub. Her friends nodded impressed. Ava's enthusiasm was truly infectious. She smiled, hugging the tablet to her chest, the future looking bright. "I used to think I had it all," Ava mused. "A supportive family, a clear path at a great university, and a burning passion to build something meaningful. The $50,000 my late grandmother left me specifically for my education and a future business venture felt like the key to unlocking that dream." A few weeks later, in the living room of the Miller family home in a suburban neighborhood, the usually cozy and inviting atmosphere was now thick with tension. Mrs. Sarah Miller, in her 50s, dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Mr. David Miller, also in his 50s, paced back and forth, his jaw clenched. Ethan Miller, 25. Ava's usually boisterous older brother was now slumped on the sofa, pale and looking years older. Ava walked in just home for the weekend, her cheerful demeanor fading as she took in the scene. "Mom, Dad, Ethan. What's wrong? Is everything okay?" Mr. David stopped pacing, his shoulders slumping, finding it hard to meet Ava's eyes. "Ava, honey, sit down. There's been a little trouble, Mrs." Sarah's voice trembled. "Your brother, he made a terrible mistake. A foolish, terrible mistake." Ethan winced but didn't look up. Ava slowly sat on the edge of an armchair, her initial worry turning into a knot of unease. "What kind of mistake, Ethan?" Finally, Ethan mumbled, his voice barely audible. I lost some money. A lot of money." Mr. David interjected, his voice strained. "He got involved in a high-risk online investment scheme, and he borrowed money he couldn't repay. From some very dangerous people, Ava. We're talking about nearly $100,000. Ava gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My head was spinning, she thought. 100,000. That's an astronomical sum. But the knockout punch was still to come. Mr. David continued, "Honey, we had no other choice. To protect Ethan, to keep him safe, we had to use the money your grandmother left you. All of it, to pay off his debts. Please understand, it was the only way." Ava's face turned white. Her mind struggled to process his words. $50,000, her future. My startup fund, she whispered. Grandma's money, the money for the Tech Connect Community Hub. Mrs. Sarah pleaded, reaching for Ava's hand, but Ava instinctively pulled away. "You're his sister." "Ava, family helps family. He was in real danger. We can't let our son be harmed. What would people think? His life was on the line." Ava looked at her parents, then at Ethan, who still avoided her gaze. This betrayal cut deeper than she could have ever imagined. It wasn't just the money, it was the complete disregard for her dreams, her future, everything her grandmother had intended for her. "They never once asked how I felt," Ava told herself. "My ambitions, my meticulously planned future were all disposable compared to the life of their precious son." In that moment, something inside me shattered. Ava slowly stood up, a cold numbness spreading through her. She was speechless. She turned and walked out of the room, the sound of her mother's choked sobs echoing behind her. A few months later, at a local coffee shop called The Daily Grind, the hustle and bustle of a busy cafe filled the air. Ava, looking noticeably thinner and more tired than before, expertly operated the espresso machine, calling out orders with a forced cheerfulness. Her university sweatshirt had been replaced by a standard-issue barista apron. She had been forced to put her studies on indefinite hold. The Tech Connect Community Hub was now a forgotten dream. "I moved out a week after that night," Ava recalled. "Found a tiny studio apartment downtown. I couldn't stay under their roof anymore. I had to stand on my own 2 feet. The wound of betrayal was still raw, but it also ignited something else in me, a primal need to survive. During a lull, Chloe, 22, Ava's best friend, approached the counter. Chloe's expression was a mix of concern and support. "Hey, slow day." Ava managed a weak smile. "Not really, just the calm before the afternoon storm. What's up?" Chloe said, "Just wanted to see you. Are you going to keep this up indefinitely?" "Ava, this job and online tutoring every night too. What about your degree, your project?" Ava sighed, wiping the counter. "I need time, Chloe. Right now, it's all about making rent and not thinking too much about everything else. The project's gone. The money's gone too." Chloe reached across the counter, gently squeezing Ava's hand. "I'm always here if you need anything at all." Ava's eyes softened with gratitude. "Thanks, Chloe. That means a lot." Late one evening in 2023, in Ava's small, sparsely furnished but neat studio apartment, she sat at a small desk surrounded by textbooks borrowed from the local library and a laptop meticulously reviewing her budget. Stacks of instant noodle cups sat on a shelf. Her phone buzzed. "Caller ID." "Mom." Ava hesitated, then answered with a sigh. "Hello." Mrs. Sarah's voice on the other end was frantic, almost hysterical. "Ava, thank God you have to help. It's Ethan again. He's gotten in deeper with those people. This Vic Costello guy, he's not kidding around. They're threatening to break his legs, Ava." Ava closed her eyes, a wave of exhaustion washing over her. "Mom, I told you I don't have anything left. I'm struggling every day as it is." Mrs. Sarah said, "We know about the small condo downtown that Grandma also left you. The one she said was an investment for your future. You could sell it, Ava. Please, just this once more for your brother, his family." Ava's eyes snapped open. That condo. It was a small, rundown unit her grandmother had bought years ago, hoping it would appreciate. It was Ava's only remaining link to her grandmother's foresight, her last safety net. They didn't just steal my academic future, Ava thought. Now they want to take away the last piece of security my grandmother tried to give me. All to enable Ethan's bottomless pit of irresponsibility again. A surge of anger, cold and hard, cut through Ava's weariness. "No," she said, her voice firm, devoid of any earlier softness. "I won't sell it. He made his mess, he can deal with it. I've had enough." Mrs. Sarah's voice on the other end turned to screams and reproaches. "How can you be so selfish, so heartless? He's your brother." Ava hung up her hand, trembling. Tears of frustration and anger streamed down her face. But this time her eyes shone with a new steely determination. "I've sacrificed enough," she told herself. "It's time for them to face the consequences. As for me, I need to understand why my brother keeps falling into these bottomless pits of debt. There's something not right about this Vic Costello guy or the people he's involved with." A few days later, one evening, Ava, dressed in dark, inconspicuous clothing, watched from across the street, partially hidden behind a parked car. She saw Ethan nervously exit a fancy restaurant. He was with a burly, well-dressed man in an expensive suit, Victor Vic Costello, about 50, with an imposing presence and cold eyes. Costello clapped Ethan on the shoulder, a gesture that looked more threatening than friendly. They got into a sleek black SUV. As the car pulled away, Ava noticed a discreet logo on the rear passenger door, 3 stylized letters, SBS, enclosed in a circle. Ava quickly raised her phone, zooming in to take a picture of the license plate and logo just before the SUV turned a corner. "I'm starting to suspect Ethan's debts aren't just from losing bets or foolish investments anymore," she thought. "This seems bigger, more organized, and SBS, Summit Business Services, as I would soon find out, is a name I won't forget. My fight isn't just about survival anymore. It's about to become something much bigger, Ava looked at the photo on her phone, a determined glint in her eyes. Part 2. Unraveling. At a modern, bright coffee shop called Brew and Bites, on an early day in 2024, the atmosphere less hectic than the daily grind. Ava sat across from Jessica Ramirez, a lawyer in her early 30s, with a sharp, intelligent gaze and a compassionate demeanor. A half-eaten croissant and coffee cups sat between them. Ava had just finished telling her story, her voice steady despite the difficult subject. She slid her phone across the table, showing Jessica the photo of the SUV's logo. "That's the logo, SBS," Ava said. "I did some initial research online. It stands for Summit Business Services. Their official business is consulting, but the reviews are either vaguely positive or non-existent. It feels very off. I think this company is more than just a loan shark operation. Given the amount of money Ethan mentioned and how quickly he got into trouble again, I think it could be a front company for money laundering or something similar. My brother is just a pawn, a disposable one." Jessica listened intently, her expression thoughtful. She picked up Ava's phone and examined the photo. "What you're describing is incredibly serious, Ava." Jessica nodded slowly. "And you've shown immense courage in pursuing this, especially after what your family has put you through. Summit Business Services, I've heard whispers about them, nothing concrete but enough to raise suspicion. To bring this to light, to get justice for what happened to your inheritance, and to potentially stop them, we need concrete evidence. More than just suspicion." Ava's jaw set with determination. "I'll find it. I used to be a business major before all this happened. I know how to look at financial statements, or at least how to spot red flags. I can be careful." Jessica didn't make any promises, no guarantees of success, Ava thought. But she listened, she believed me, and she gave me something I hadn't felt in months' hope. For the first time since everything fell apart, I saw a glimmer of light, a possible path forward. Jessica offered a small, encouraging smile. "Okay, Ava, let's keep in close contact, document everything, and please be careful. People like Costello don't play nice." Over the next few months, Ava, looking like a student with a backpack, discreetly observed the nondescript office building where Summit Business Services was located. She took photos from a distance with her phone, noting the license plates of expensive cars in its private parking lot. At night, in her small studio apartment, Ava hunched over her laptop, surrounded by printouts of public records and financial articles. She taught herself advanced online search techniques, cross-referencing business registrations, and looking for connections. The Tech Connect Community Hub proposal lay on a shelf, a bittersweet reminder of her past ambitions, now fueling her current grim investigation. She sat in the public library, using their powerful computers to access databases she couldn't afford. She uncovered a complex web of shell companies linked to SBS many, with vague business purposes and frequent changes in directorship. One evening, a close-up on Ava's laptop screen. She was tracking a series of large irregular transactions. Her eyes widened as she saw familiar names: Miller's Home Solutions, her parents' business, listed in several transactions with entities clearly linked to Summit Business Services. The amounts were very large, far exceeding any normal business dealings. "The truth was even worse than I imagined," Ava told herself. "It wasn't just Ethan, my parents. They weren't just naive victims paying off their son's debts. Their business was also involved. Whether they were coerced, willfully blind, or worse, actively participating, this truth hit me like a punch. They might have been complicit, perhaps unknowingly, at first then deliberately looking the other way, all to protect Ethan, their business, and perhaps, just perhaps, out of greed." Another night, Ava was walking home from her coffee shop job. A dark car slowed down beside her. The window rolled down, revealing a shadowy figure. "Curious girls can get hurt," a low, threatening voice said. "Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong." The car sped off. Ava was visibly shaken, but clutched her bag tighter, her fear quickly turning into anger and determination. Many weeks later, at Jessica Ramirez's law office, Ava, looking tired but resolute, sat opposite Jessica. Between them on the desk was a meticulously organized binder, thick with documents, spreadsheets, timelines, and photos. "It's all in there," Ava said. "Transaction histories I managed to piece together from public records connections between SBS and dozens of shell companies, even some anonymous employee reviews I found on obscure forums hinting at illegal activities. And the transactions involving my parents' business." Jessica spent several minutes carefully reviewing the contents, her expression growing more serious with each page. "Ava, this," Jessica looked up, a new respect evident in her eyes, "is extraordinary. The detail, the connections you've made, what you've compiled here is substantial. This is more than enough to get the authorities involved. This goes beyond a family dispute over an inheritance." "So what now?" Ava asked. Jessica replied, "Now we take this to people who can do something with it. Given the potential scale of the money laundering, I think we should approach the Economic Crimes Unit at the District Attorney's Office. They'll have the resources to investigate properly. It won't be easy, and it could get very messy for your family. Are you prepared for that?" Ava took a deep breath. "I'm ready. They made their choices. I'm making mine." A few days later, several unmarked police cars and a van from the city's Economic Crime Unit were parked outside the Summit Business Services office building. Plainclothes detectives' badges, visible calmly and systematically, entered the building. Employees inside looked startled and confused. Later, Vic Costello, looking furious and surprised, was led out in handcuffs by two detectives. Several other men, presumably his key associates, were also led away. A local news crew had just arrived, cameras rolling. Justice can be slow, Ava thought, and sometimes it feels like it will never come. But it will if you're willing to fight for it, willing to drag the truth into the light, no matter how painful. That evening, in the Miller family living room, the room was dimly lit. The atmosphere was even heavier, more suffocating than before. Mr. David and Mrs. Sarah sat on the sofa, looking completely devastated, aged years in just a few months. Ethan was ashen-faced, staring blankly at the floor. Their business, Miller's Home Solutions, had been implicated in the SBS investigation, its assets frozen. The threat of criminal charges hung over Mr. David. Ava entered. She looked at them not with triumph, but with a deep, weary sadness. "Are you happy now, Ava?" Mrs. Sarah whispered, her voice hoarse, laced with bitterness and blame, finally looking at Ava. "You've ruined us. You've ruined your own family." "I didn't ruin anyone," Ava said, her voice steady and clear, looking them straight in the eye without flinching. "Your choices, Mom and Dad, your constant enabling of Ethan, your willingness to look the other way when things clearly crossed the line, your decision to sacrifice my future, and Ethan's irresponsibility, his refusal to face the consequences, that's what led to this. I just did what was right. I brought the truth to light." Mr. David's voice cracked finally, showing a flicker of genuine remorse. Shame etched on his face. "We were wrong, Ava. So wrong. We always underestimated you. Always put Ethan first. We thought we were protecting him, but—" He trailed off, unable to continue. Ava said, "Money can be earned back, perhaps, but trust once shattered and integrity once compromised are very hard to rebuild. I hope after all this, everyone will understand what truly matters. Honesty, hard work, accountability. Taking responsibility for your actions." Ava didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The weight of her words hung in the air. She felt a deep sorrow for the family she once thought she had, but also a sense of liberation. She had spoken her truth. They may not fully understand yet, Ava told herself. Earning their genuine respect, if that's even possible anymore, will take more time, more introspection on their part than I can force. But I knew in that moment they finally saw me, not as the overlooked daughter, the convenient sacrifice, but as the woman I had been forced to become. Ava turned and walked away, leaving them with the silence and the wreckage of their choices. A few months later, at the Phoenix Bean coffee shop, sunlight streamed into a cozy, bustling little cafe. The decor was warm and inviting, with local artwork adorning the walls. This was the Phoenix Bean Gum, Ava's new venture. She stood behind the counter, a genuine, radiant smile on her face as she handed a latte to a customer. She moved with a newfound confidence. The cafe was funded by a small business loan for young entrepreneurs, and ironically, a portion of the restitution awarded by the court from Costello's seized assets. A small acknowledgement of the inheritance money she had lost. A small, tasteful section of the cafe displayed flyers and information about local nonprofits and community initiatives, a nod to her original dream of helping the community, now realized in a different form. Life isn't a fairy tale, Ava thought. The wreckage of the past doesn't just disappear. There are still legal proceedings, fractured relationships that may never fully heal. But through it all, I learned how to navigate the storm, how to rebuild my life from the ashes on my own terms. Jessica Ramirez entered looking around with an appreciative smile. "This place is amazing, Ava," Jessica said, beaming. "It's really you. I'm so proud of you." Ava's smile widened. "Thanks, Jessica. I couldn't have done it without your belief and guidance. It means the world." Ava looked around her thriving little cafe, a tangible symbol of her resilience and new beginning. She caught her reflection in the gleaming espresso machine. A woman who had faced betrayal and emerged stronger, more self-assured. "I was once the undervalued one, the forgotten one, the one whose dreams didn't matter," she thought. "Now I stand tall, defined by my own strength, my integrity, and my refusal to be broken. Success isn't just a destination, it's the journey of affirming your own worth, of rising again and again. And my journey, it's truly just beginning." The final shot is of Ava looking out the front window of the Phoenix Bean onto the bustling street, a hopeful and determined expression on her face. She takes a deep breath, ready for whatever comes next. The Phoenix Bean was more than just a coffee shop. It had become a neighborhood fixture. Sunlight streamed through the large front windows, illuminating walls adorned with local art that changed monthly. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods was a constant, welcoming presence. Ava, now 24, moved with an easy grace behind the counter, greeting regulars by name, her laughter often mingling with the gentle hum of conversation and the clinking of cups. She'd hired a small dedicated staff, freeing her up to manage the business and even host occasional community events, poetry readings, acoustic music nights, and workshops for aspiring local entrepreneurs. The corner dedicated to nonprofits was always current, showcasing different causes each month. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Ava was sketching out ideas for a new seasonal menu, the bell above the door chimed. She looked up to see her father, David Miller, standing hesitantly by the entrance. It had been months since she'd last seen him, mostly at strained brief encounters during the ongoing legal processes involving their old family business. He looked older, more subdued, but there was a softness in his eyes she hadn't seen in years. "Dad," Ava said, a note of surprise in her voice, but not unkindness. She gestured to an empty table near the window. "Come in." He sat looking around the cafe with a quiet awe. "This place? It's really something, Ava. You've done well." "Thanks," she replied, joining him. "It's a lot of work, but I love it." An awkward silence settled between them before David spoke, his voice low. "Your mother, she still finds it hard, but I wanted to say, I've had a lot of time to think. About everything. We were wrong, Ava. So wrong. We were so focused on Ethan, on what we thought was important. We didn't see you. We didn't see your strength, your talent." He paused, then met her gaze directly. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For the money, yes, but more than that. For not believing in you." Ava listened, her expression unreadable at first. The apology so long in coming hung in the air. It didn't erase the past, the pain, or the struggle, but it was a beginning. "Thank you for saying that, Dad," she said finally, her voice gentle. "It means something." She knew forgiveness was a journey, not a destination, and this was perhaps the first step on a very long road. There would be no easy reconciliation, no return to what was, but maybe, just maybe, something new and more honest could be built. Later that week, while closing up the cafe, Ava found herself looking at the old Tech Connect community hub proposal she kept in a drawer in her small office. She smiled faintly. The path had been different, harder than she'd ever imagined. But the Phoenix Bean was its own kind of community hub, built on resilience, integrity, and a different kind of dream. She was even taking a few online coding classes in her spare time, a quiet rekindling of an old passion now pursued for herself on her own terms, without the weight of anyone else's expectations. As she locked the door and stepped out into the cool night air, Ava looked up at the stars. The journey had been about more than just reclaiming what was lost. It was about discovering who she was and what she was capable of. She was a survivor, a creator, a business owner. She was Ava Miller, and she was finally, truly the architect of her own life. The future was still unwritten, but now she held the pen with a steady, confident hand.